Today is Friday, June 9th, 2023. Friday, June 9th, 2023. I'm in Homestead, Florida, USA, out in the Redland area. My project is a 1994 Astro van. I'm trying to get it where it'll run on the street again. I've had all kinds of problems with the fuel injection system, the CPI that was used on this from 1992 to 95. In the process of troubleshooting, I accidentally burned out my fuel level sender in the fuel tank because I wanted to make sure I had good power going to the fuel pump. I've tested the fuel pump. It's putting out 75 psi with the regulator blocked. I've replaced the regulator. I bought this fuel injector tester. It was pretty inexpensive online, cheaper than I could have built one. I'm an electrical engineer, electronics technician, and you need pulses. It's like 3 pulses per RPM for the engine, for the fuel injection, and this will allow me, if I can get to the electrical connector that goes to the CPI, to pulse it without even running the engine. But what's happening is, I thought initially, and this door handle just broke. I got a replacement, but haven't installed it yet. And it's, from what I see on YouTube, changing that handle out is a pain in the neck. But I checked the fuel pressure, and it ought to go to 62 psi and hold, and it's not. It was in the past, but I took the CPI out on the bench and I cleaned it and I put it back on, and during testing and playing around with it, I realized that the regulator is okay. I'd replace the regulator with another one. And if you follow my video logs, look in the past logs, you'll see where I spent a lot of time talking about the CPI. But it's not holding pressure now, and I've got to ferret out why it's not holding pressure. And I plan to change the fuel tank assembly, the pump and the sender anyway, because I want the fuel level to work again. And I have found the parts to repair the old sender, and I'll do that later. I want to have a spare because I'm planning on doing a lot of road work with this engine when I get it sorted. But what was happening before is I could turn on the key and it's supposed to pump up and then hold it, and it was. And because what happens is when you turn the key on, the computer tells the fuel injection system to run the pump in the tank, but it also checks for oil pressure, and if there's no oil pressure, it shuts down the fuel pump. That's why it only comes up for like 2 seconds and then goes away if there's no oil pressure. And that's by design. That's a good thing for protecting your engine. And there is a way to bypass it. There's a lead over here. Let me go around and show you. There's a pigtail on this generation of Astro vans where you can apply 12 volts to this pigtail here. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. Gotta back off and to find. You put 12 volts there from the battery fused, and that'll simulate your fuel pump relay being actuated by the computer and give you a fuel pump all the time. So anyway, the service manual says to squeeze off the lines here one at a time to see if you're losing the pressure with the check ball in the fuel tank on the supply side, which I don't know. Scanner Danner's got Paul at Scanner Danner, YouTube, Scanner Danner. By the way, Paul, I love your work. And there's a couple others that I really like, but Scanner Danner is, I like how he explains things. But anyway, basically you take a pair of pliers and you squeeze off the rubber lines underneath the vehicle on the supply and the regulator return line for the CPI. I've done this in the past and I haven't figured out why I'm losing pressure now. but I think it's the maxi injector that's sticking, because I'm losing, it's going somewhere quick. And as far as these two lines, a little confusing underneath there, so I think I'm going to paint one yellow and one orange for the supply and return on the underneath, so when I'm testing I don't get confused which is supply and which one is return. But I'm trying to decide whether I want to start at the engine and work back, or do the fuel tank first and work forward. But I think I'm going to do the most difficult first. And I want to change the spark plugs too, and I want to check the timing because I put a new distributor in here. Anyway, this is my starting point for today, and like I say, I plan on replacing that unit in the fuel tank anyway, and I'll document that in my video logs. Again, this is not a how-to, this is just a video log where I'm just documenting how I did it or what I did. Do-it-yourself work has inherent risk of fire, explosion, death, or injury. So do it at your own risk, if you do it at all. Or find a good shop in your area and get an estimate. And I always tell people, why don't you get estimates? Of course, I don't do that. I do my own work here because I like to save time and money by being a do-it-yourself. I had a shop working on this initially, but they were just changing sensors, and I can do that, and I can't afford $500 a sensor. And it was a pain because it took the guy a while to figure out how to change the TPS sensor, which is the throttle position sensor, the TPS. And there's a difference in those sensors between VIN W and VIN Z, whether it's CPI or TPI, which is CPI is Central Multi-Port Fuel Injection, or Central, which was later changed to CSFI, and in 96, from 92 to 95 they had CPI, and from 96 on they had CSFI, which was not compatible. It requires a different wiring because it fires one poppet at a time instead of all 6 at one time like this one does, like the CPI does. And I've read theory, and I've read write-ups, and I've watched videos, and basically it boils down to either get this CPI to work or find a core and send it off to a fuel injection company or third party like Rock Auto. Because the fuel injection, some of them won't accept it directly without going through a third party like Rock Auto or Summit or Jags or what have you. Anyway, this is where I am today. I want to do the timing probably first, pull the number 1 spark plug, or pull all the spark plugs, because it makes it easier to set. I really want to get timing set correctly, what they call a base timing, and I'm not sure if to set the base timing it's this connector or there's another connector over here that's a single wire, and I'm not sure which is which, but I assume it's this one. And on the General Motors trucks, they put it on the driver's side. Excuse me. Oh boy, that was bad to put on video. Excuse me. Anyway, I'm not good at editing, so you're going to have to live with it. The General Motor trucks, it was in a different, some say it was near the glove box on the GM trucks, like the Blazers and what have you, and others say it was on the driver's side compartment. And Paul with Scanner Danner, showed it on the driver's side. And I'm pointing out how to get fuel pressure without using the whole the computer, because it can be used to advantage when you're working on this, when you're troubleshooting. Or the mid-frame connector you can pull and connect, but if you mess up the connection points like I did, I burned it out. I accidentally put 12 volts across the fuel level resistor, which is just a very delicate, tiny little film resistor. It gives you between 30 and 240 ohms for fuel level analog. If it's an analog sensor, it gives you 30 ohms for a fuel tank and 240 ohms for an empty tank. And I'm not trying to baffle you with BS here. I'm trying to give you some technical specs. Now, if you're interested in my reference materials and my notes and all of that, at the end of the video, I'll put a slideshow up with my, when I have time, I'll add that to the videos when I do an editing and put these video log segments into half an hour or 1 hour presentation, because I've spent months and years working on this problem, and it was confusing because I thought I had good fuel pressure because I had good readings every time I turned it on. And then after I cleaned the maxi injector, I found out it was intermittent. Yeah, it started the other day. It doesn't want to start today. So again, I want to check the timing. I'm not sure if this new distributor's any damn good. I may have to put the old distributor back in there, and you know how fiddly that is. You have to put a long screwdriver in there to align the oil pump with the distributor shaft. Then you have to make sure that number 1 is pointing to number 1, which I've got marked with tape here when it's top dead center. So it's a lot of fiddly fooling around. So that said, thanks for watching. Dennis John Sietsma Productions, Homestead, Florida, USA. Do it yourself work at your own risk. This is not a how-to, this is a video log. This is how I did it. And do any such work at your own risk. Death or injury can result from do-it-yourself work. That's why you pay the pros. Their shop rate, I don't know, it used to be $100 an hour. Now I think some shops are even higher. Go ahead, post a comment if you like. Say what shop rates are in your area and what estimates you get on the working on the CPI for the 92 to 95 4.3 liter V6, and any ideas you have that'll help me solve these problems. Go ahead, post a comment. Again, thanks for watching.